Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. The Senate is now tackling several issues that have taken the public's full attention. First, the impeachment of Vice President Sara Duterte. All eyes are now at the upper chamber, which will try the VP and decide whether she should stay or go. Second is the budget. The legality of the 2025 General Appropriations Act is now being challenged before the Supreme Court. Then there's sex education. A bill endorsing comprehensive sexual education among children has been met with opposition by many sectors. The Committee on Basic Education now wants CSE scrapped. Let's get on point with Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. He's chairman of the Senate Committee on Basic Education. Senator, welcome to the Billionaire News Channel.
Thank you. Good to see you. Haven't seen you for a while.
Good to see you. Ang tagal na po. And I'm happy you're here in the studio.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the impeachment for transparency. He already told me that he can't talk about this, but I guess just a reaction on number one, because the Senate President, Jesus Escudero, said that this will happen in June 2. It's not going to happen now unless there are possibly special session that will be called, etc. Just what can you say about it?
Well, the Senate President has already made a statement, and we already adjourned session yesterday for the campaign recess. So, and the impeachment wasn't taken up during the last day of our session. So, in other words, we will convene end of June, and that's the only time that we can tackle this.
You convene June 2, I think.
I think June 2.
Right,
Sorry,
right, early
June 2.
June.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
after the campaign, after the elections.
And of course, you are not running because you are still on your third year.
Right. This is my second term, so I'm not up for re-election.
Okay. Just maybe in any impeachment, for example, because you will be part of this, come
We'll
June
be
2.
senator judges.
You'll be senator judges, right. How do you just see it, I guess, to be fair, because I must respect your, siguro nga sinasabi mo, you can't really comment on this, and I'll have to respect that. But in terms of legislative agenda, how do you foresee this happening na lang as a senator judge and then pushing for the legislative agenda?
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, in the rules for impeachment, we can actually hold our legislative sessions and legislative activities, and also at the same time impeachment activities. And that's going to be very difficult and complicated because you also have legislation that you want to pass. At the same time, you'll have hearings, you have consultative meetings, and at the same time, you'll be studying for the impeachment. So it will be quite complicated, but it's our duty to act on both legislative and impeachment. So I'm sure we'll be adjusting our time.
I guess what happens kasi during sa umaga po yung mga hearings, nagaganap po yung mga hearings ninyo.
And then you have session in the afternoon.
So
just imagine you have hearings in the morning, then you have sessions in the afternoon. And the sessions also take a lot of research and time to prepare. And then now you have a very big activity, which is the impeachment.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to leave that. We'll see what happens if there are certain options, maybe June 2. Maybe the president will call for a special session. They say that even if it's a special session, I don't know if it includes impeachment. Again, these are a number of things.
Well, in the Constitution, it has limited qualifications for special session. One is legislative, and impeachment is not there.
Yeah, that's what the Senate President was saying.
Correct.
Too.
So there are several qualifications, primarily for legislative. The other one is for other purposes, but impeachment is not there. Correct. Yeah. Impeachment is not there.
So that's very clear.
That's very clear in the Constitution.
All right. Okay. Let's talk about the budget. This is already being questioned. You're part of the BICAM of the budget, the 2025 budget. Did you personally see any blank lines? Or?
At least on the part of the Senate and me personally, I did not see any blank items in the documents that we signed. In fact, the only time that I saw that document with blank items, the Senate or the senators' signatures were not there, including mine. So number one, I could not verify whether that
ulitin ko yun, sir. So yung nakita nyo po na may blank na items, wala pang
Somebody
pirma.
showed it to me. A member of the media in the Senate showed it to me. So my signature was not there, and apparently the signatures of the senators were not there. Walang mga senator doon. So number one, we don't know where the document came from. And then number two, I think it's better to ask those people who signed that document because they're the ones who signed. But on the part of the Senate, none of the senators signed that document.
And were you able to see each and every single page of
Well,
that
we have
BICAM
staff.
report? Yeah.
We have staff. During the BICAM, we bring the committee allows us to bring our staff. Even prior to signing it, we liaise with the budget office in the Senate. So we get all the documents beforehand. It's impossible to review it right there and then. So you have to get the documents beforehand and review it, especially the committees that we head in the Finance Committee. Like, for example, in my part, I had the whole energy department in terms of budgeting. So I review all of those documents before we sign it.
Well, I think the energy part obviously was not part of the blank items.
Yeah.
It was really the NIA and some parts of the department. It just now I question that because if you did not see blank items, your team did not see blank items, and what was shown supposedly was not, you did not affix your signature there. How is that possible? Because if it's a BICAM report,
Yeah,
could you
there's a
explain?
process. So it starts with the House, and then it's transmitted to the Senate, and then we have the BICAM, and then we transmit it to Malacanang for signature.
BICAM, enrolled bill, Malacanang,
Malacanang, correct,
Okay.
correct. So since this is my personal analysis, Pinky, since the documents that I saw, I don't know if the documents are authentic or not, because it was just shown to me. And the Senate, since that document does not have the signatures of the Senate, it probably came from the first step, which is the House. But then again, I don't have any validation whether that came from the House. No? So this is my own analysis because if ever that came from the Senate, then all the senators already signed that portion. No?
Yeah, because even Senator Risa Ontiveros was saying she didn't see any blank items also. So that I guess that's something that really needs to be discussed.
So we have to look at the process. Where did the process start? The process started with the House, and then it went to the Senate.
I guess this is just thinking
I'm not
of
pointing
the
fingers,
realm of possibilities. Yeah, but it's clear. If you're saying that what you saw did not have the signature of the senators, obviously, hindi yun yung BICAM na sinign nyo. Kasi wala yung pirma mo dun eh.
Correct.
So it's plain and simple.
Correct. Because if the senator signed it, then obviously that document went through the process.
Yeah.
But I think the process stopped at the first stage.
In fact, when I was discussing this previously, I was just surmised that could there have been a first draft? At yun yung posibleng inikot. Again, hindi po kayo kasama dito dahil House of Reps po ito. There were two people who said that there were blank items, Congressman Ungab and Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel. Raul Manuel saw 14 items that were blank, and then Representative Ungab parang 40 ata or something like that. Sorry, I don't really recall right now. But going back to my question, I had asked, could there have been a first draft? Kasi bakit ganon? Bakit may mga blank items? But anyway.
Yeah, I think the better people to ask are those who signed those documents because they're the ones who signed those documents. So I'm not sure if they saw the blank documents or they deliberately signed it with the blank documents. I think it's better to ask them.
Got it. Sir, with the BICAM issue and all this talk of the BICAM is the more powerful committee after makapangyarihan ng BICAM na budget, no? There are calls for reforms in the budget process. While we see hearings, sir, you would defend a particular agency and somebody else would defend a particular other agency. But dating po kasi ng BICAM, even Senator Amy was saying, picture lang yan, tapos pinapalabas na. And then, supposedly, some say the magic happens during the BICAM. Is it about time to, number one, siguro, be a little bit more, not be a little bit more, be transparent with the BICAM?
Yeah, I agree that there's room for improvement, especially at the BICAM level. So what happens is when we convene as BICAM, the vice chairman, like us, we have our own, nakatoka yung mga departments. So toka-toka kami. And then we review our own submissions. Because as a vice chairman, I'm assigned to hear all the energy-related departments. And I'm assigned also to look at those budgets until the end. No? So nakatoka-toka kami. What we can improve there is we can engage the vice chairman, especially at the final stages already. Instead of nakatoka lang, we can also be engaged in the final stages already.
Okay.
So that's a room for improvement that I see.
What about televising it?
I think it's televised during the BICAM period. It's televised.
Pag kayo-kayo na lang po, no?
I think pag...
Pinapalabas niyo lahat ng media. Yun ang pagkaalam ko.
Alala ko may media doon eh. I think...
sa picture taking, sir.
I think meron ding mga ano doon eh. May members of the media that I know. But I think
no,
what can be improved in terms of transparency is during the process before signing, they can present the results of the BICAM.
Why not the debate during the BICAM too? I mean, just really, as I mentioned a while ago, hindi ho ba when nagde-defend sa House, si so-and-so congressman sa, let's say, whatever department, napapanood po namin yun.
Yes.
Why not sa BICAM when you are debating among yourselves and supposedly there are supposed insertions there? These are the types these are the times.
I get your point. What another improvement to transparency can be prior to the signing, the document can be shared to the members of the media. It can be discussed. So I think that's a room for improvement as well in terms of transparency.
Sir, gaano katagal yung gaano po kakapal yung dokumento?
Medyo makapal yun. Makapal yun. But there's a summary. Makikita mo naman eh. Like for example, in the Senate version and then the BICAM version, you can see the movement there. So if people are interested to look at the movement, then that can be shared before the actual signing. Because the signing is the trigger point eh. That's the confirmation. So before the signing, in between here, that can be shared. I think that's an area that can be improved.
Okay. What else? What other areas?
Well, transparency is definitely something that we need to focus on. I think that's where the clamor comes in.
Yeah.
And I admit that there's a lot of room for improvement in terms of transparency. And that's why I'm sharing with you that an area that I can see is before the signing, they can already share documents so that they can see movements. People who are interested to see the movements.
The question there is, how long are they going to be given an opportunity to peruse, to look into those documents?
Yeah, it's a little bit, you really need to work fast, no? Because typically, if you look at the timetable, by early December, we finish all the deliberations. And we're only given 14 days to consolidate all of that because we need to sign it before the session ends, which is around mid-December. No? So that 14 days are, those days are the time that we consolidate the House version, the Senate version, and then come up with the BICAM. I think that's where transparency should be improved.
Okay.
I admit, we have to improve that portion of the process.
After all, that is the people's money. We're going to talk about the CSE, or the Comprehensive Sexuality Education, with the Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. After the break, please stay tuned. This is On Point.
Beauty, adventure.
I do agree with that. I would rather spend my money on travel.
We got you. Join Marie Lozano where she uncovers the untold stories and surprises in the world of lifestyle.
Love it! Let me get my geek on. That was so amazing.
The Lifestyle Lab on BNC, the Billionario News Channel.
Hello and welcome to Follow the Money. I'm Rain Musni. Join us as we explore the tools and insights you need to jumpstart your financial journey.
We empower.
This country deserves a real choice in the next election.
We motivate.
Do not invest money that you're not able to afford to lose.
Changes that are vital.
We're monitoring the sale of these products online.
Follow the Money with Rain Musni.
Keep it here on the Billionario News Channel. Always on top.
Welcome back. You're watching On Point. Still with us, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, CSE, Comprehensive Sexuality Education. Okay, sir, what is the status of this? I'd like to discuss it two ways. One is, lumaki po yung issue kasi meron pong anti-teenage pregnancy bill na may nakapaloob na CSE. And the group, Project Dalisay, which CJ, the former CJ Sereno, is part of, basically said nakakatakot itong anti-teenage pregnancy bill na may nakapaloob na CSE. However, sir, the other thing is, meron talagang CSE na nangyayari pa lang ngayon
People
doon
don't
sa
know
mga
that.
hearings. So
Correct.
maybe we should start with what is happening. I mean, kahit ata kayo nagulat na meron palang CSE na ginagawa ngayon.
Correct.
At sa what? Kinder?
Kinder.
Okay.
Kinder.
Please,
Okay.
siguro ilatag mo para sa amin, sir.
So dalawa yan, Pinky. There are two documents, no? SB 1979, which is the bill called Anti-Teenage Pregnancy Bill. And in that bill, one of the provisions there calls for a mandated comprehensive sexuality education to be taught from K to 12. And as we speak...
Hold on. Did it say from K to 12?
Yes, K to 12.
Did it say in SB 1979?
Yes, it's K to 12 siya. So, and there's also, as we speak, DO 31 that calls for the implementation of a comprehensive sexuality education, also K to 12. So pareho siya in this law and also DO 31. But during the hearing, we asked DepEd, what's the basis for DO 31? They said that the basis is the reproductive health law, which was enacted in 2012. No? So that's the basic. And if you look at that law, it calls for the implementation of a reproductive health education for adolescents aged 10 to 19. So doon nagkaroon ng, actually in the words of DepEd, confusion. Because the intention of the law and what they implemented are two different things. And if you look at DO 31, it made reference there to the UNESCO International Technical Guide for Sexuality Education, not reproductive health education. And sexuality education is very broad. For example, it includes gender orientation, gender identity, teaching of sexuality as early as 5 years old, which is kindergarten. So their views are really much more liberal compared to our culture. And that's where the debate came in.
When you said confusing, I wanted to borrow the words you used during that hearing. When a DepEd official admitted that it is confusing, you said, if it's confusing, how do you expect our teachers to teach CSE with clarity on the ground?
Yes.
So what is the status now? I mean, sir, kung kahit po kayo nagulat na nagkaroon ng department order which basically says we're teaching CSE
Correct.
in schools from kinder,
Yes.
but they say basic foundation or basic knowledge in kinder. Wasn't there an abuse or an overarch? Nagkamali ho ba sila dito?
Yeah. I think during that time, this DO 31 was implemented in 2018.
Secretary Briones' time.
Secretary Briones. I think the intention there was to implement the RH law, no? Because prior to that, President Duterte issued an Executive Order 12, that calls for the hastening, no, pabilisan ng implementation ng RH bill. And after 2017, 2018, they released that DO 31. I think there was probably an overextension of the RH education. Overextension, and because of that overextension, they used the concept that UNESCO suggested. And my think of that.
Who?
UNESCO.
No, who overextended? It's
DepEd.
Okay.
DepEd. So I think the intention is probably good in terms of addressing teenage pregnancies, increased cases of HIV, but it's not in line with the law. No? So what we need to do is to go back to the basic, what the law calls for. No? So I think the intention is really to address a present problem, but the application was beyond what the law calls for.
So what did you find out during the hearing? What were they doing from kinder to maybe 18 or 19, adolescent age?
So we took a look at the curriculum and the curriculum guides that the teacher uses. We have to remember, Pinky, because CSE being implemented from K to 12, we're talking about 800,000 teachers. No? So meaning you have to make sure that your 800,000 teachers are trained to teach comprehensive sexuality education. So that's number one. That's why you cannot have a confusion at the top, because that filters down to our teachers. And we don't want our teachers also confused on how to teach a sensitive subject. So that's one of the issues that we saw during the hearing.
I'm going to cut you there, though, because it's very important. During a hearing, I don't know if it was the House hearing or was it a Senate hearing, that they were asked how many teachers underwent training. And I think the number was 400,000.
Yeah,
To
400.
which some of the teachers groups were saying, if it's 400,000, dapat yung iba sa amin ay naturuan din.
Correct.
So, yun lang po, Senator. Do you need to ascertain really that 400,000 were taught, and how, when, where, yung mga questions po.
Correct. Imagine you're a teacher. You're going to teach 5 years old in kindergarten. You're mandated to teach sexuality education. These teachers are not trained to teach CSE during their college days. They're now being mandated to teach to 5 years old. So you have to make sure that they're trained. And number two, we have to make sure that the materials are also aligned with our culture. We cannot let them veer away from what our culture dictates. So that's also very important. So in other words, what we discovered during that hearing is CSE, as being implemented right now, is not as smooth as what we want, because the teachers are not trained, and it's also not aligned to what the original law dictates.
Will you be able to find out really if the teachers were trained and trained properly?
Well, based on my information and from my chats with teachers, they're not very sure. I mean, some of them know CSE, but they're not completely trained to teach CSE. So there are, kasi in a school, you have master teachers who can train teachers. But it's not the training that we want. Yung talagang nakaupo sila and they're taught comprehensively. What happened is there's a very limited training that happened, and that's not enough for them to teach CSE on the ground.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it suspended? What is the status of CSE now?
Currently, it's being reviewed. And my position here, my personal position as chairman of the Basic Education Committee is let's go back to the original intention of the law. And that law, if you remember, was debated emotionally. The RH law didn't pass.
Yeah. It wasn't smooth sailing.
No, it wasn't pass instantly. It was debated for a very long time because it's very sensitive. And the RH law, because of its intense debate, became culturally sensitive. So let's apply those learnings to our own reproductive health education rather than come up with something from the West which is not applicable to us or which is not appropriate to us. Let's apply already a concept that was debated heavily before.
So what happens now? It's being reviewed. It's currently being reviewed.
It's being reviewed,
okay.
and I talked to Secretary Angara about this, and he said that he's really seriously reviewing this. And but there's no conclusion yet on how to move forward. So maybe later on we'll probably call on DepEd.
But while there's no certainty on how to move forward, is it suspended?
No, it's not suspended. It's not suspended. That's why I was calling for suspension while you're reviewing it. But my position is already go back to the original comprehensive sexuality, reproductive health education.
Yeah, but if the teachers, if there's a question mark on how fully trained the teachers are, that will trickle to the students.
Correct. That's what I'm afraid of, because we're talking here at the head office or at the Senate, but we have to remember that we're not going to teach this. It's the teachers who are going to teach this in every classroom.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that they're knowledgeable, they're trained, they know the boundaries of sexuality education, because sexuality education is very complicated to teach.
And definitely the sensitivity there. So moving forward, we were saying dalawa po ito. So now CSE currently being taught, that's being under reviewed.
Yeah.
Now what about the anti-teenage pregnancy bill? What's the status of that?
Right now, Senator Risa filed a substitute bill for that. And I know a lot of senators listed to ask questions about that bill. So I think Senator Risa listened to a lot of the comments of different groups, especially the religious groups. But we still have to debate that on the floor. So it's in the process of debate right now.
So ano na lang po yan, pagbalik nyo?
Pagbalik namin.
Pero pag hindi po matapos yan,
yeah, we
back
have
to
6
zero.
session days na lang eh.
Is
So,
it in June 2, just 6 left?
Yeah, 6 session days left
I see.
when we come back. So it will be tight. It will be tight. It's not impossible, but it will be tight.
But how important is this bill for you,
Well,
personally?
for me, what's important here is to address the issue of teenage pregnancies. No? We have about 140,000 teenage pregnancies in 2023. So that's quite a bit, no? Quite a lot. So we need to address that. But I admit that we cannot address that with just CSE or reproductive health education. The parents also need to play a very big role. And that's where I'm also pushing very hard DepEd and the SWD to come up with programs to train our parents on how to talk to their children.
Also.
We cannot leave it to just the teachers. The parents need to play an active, not only some really active role to educate their children.
So it's really educating the children and educating the parents as well. And very important in that substitute bill of Senator Risa is tinanggal po yung very controversial na in accordance with international.
Yeah.
Yun po kasi naaaning WHO and UNESCO studies.
Correct, because that opens up the door to Western culture. And in fact, in the WHO guidebook, they want to teach sexuality education, or CSE, Comprehensive Sexuality Education, as early as 1 year old.
Yeah.
So very liberal the way they think, no? Because in their philosophy, all human beings are sexual human beings. No? So, and that's not culturally applicable to us or culturally appropriate to us because we have a very conservative culture.
Very quickly, Senator, when you adjourned yesterday, what were the siguro last-minute bills that were passed or slash pending?
Marami. In fact, on my part, we ratified already the Early Childhood Care and Development Law. This is a new law. So this will now give our local governments their responsibility and accountability to implement early childhood education in their own locality. So it's not national now, it's the local government. We also approved the Capital Markets Efficiency Promotion Act. So we reduced stock transaction tax from 0.6% to 0.1%. So that will encourage ordinary people to invest in the stock market.
I see. Yeah. All right, so you're going to be on vacation?
Oh, well, not actually. This is recess, but we can still hold hearings.
Yeah.
We can still hold consultative meetings.
Yeah.
So, on my part, at least with my committee, we have committee hearings regularly.
Oh.
Yeah.
And at least hindi po kayo mangangampanya.
Hindi ako mangangampanya this time.
Okay. Rest kayo sa pangangampanya.
Walang pressure.
Maraming salamat, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. Good to see you, sir. That's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionaire News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.